Hi, Nicole. Good afternoon.
Hi, Miss. Good afternoon.
How is everything?
It's okay, Miss. What about you?
Everything is fine. Thank you for asking. Well, we haven't seen each other for many days, I guess, right? And so we're gonna try to see or to learn two lessons today. I don't know if we're gonna have enough time, but let's try. So I need your help, please. Do you remember until what part we stopped the last class?
Um, mm, I will. I'm going to search.
Okay, I guess all right. Okay. We stop in should have, I guess, right? Or it was the future continuous.
Object, adjective clauses.
Okay, so this is the last. Okay, so we have four lessons more, right? And then I'm gonna ask the coordinator how many classes do we have free in order to schedule better the class, right? Sometimes it happened with my students that we finished before. Okay, so I guess I only had one case with one of my students that we end after, right? So I'm gonna ask to the coordinator how many classes do we have in order to finish the English class, right? At all, in general, I'm talking. So today we're gonna look for passive models, right? The next class, the next lesson is going to be about adjective classes. This is a review. As you know, and you told me that you've seen or you learned English before. At the end of, well, when we finish the grammar, right, we need to see a review, right, of those important lessons that we consider that maybe is going to help us a lot, right, more than others. Of course, everything is important, but the reality is that we have more lessons, right, that it's like about everything. I don't know if you get it. So the three lessons that we have left uh, are about a review, right? It's about the reviewing and expansion, right? So this is going to be our last lesson that contains grammar. I mean, something that we've never seen before. Then the three lessons that we have, okay, it's about something that we already seen, okay? So we have three lessons more to finish the English course, okay? So maybe we could finish this before, but as we couldn't have enough time, maybe we couldn't agree with the schedule. We're gonna try to do it the next. No, we're gonna not to try. We're gonna do it. Okay, we're gonna finish the next week. So today's lesson is about passive models. This is not something new at all. We already know how to use models, right? And as I told you many times, you have to know how to, in what kind of situations you have to use each model, right? So once you can see my screen, please let me know.
I can see, Miss.
Great, that's cool. Okay, so let's listen the audio.
Hi, TV news is amazing. The latest news can be seen by people everywhere at the same time. So by now, Nick's story must be known all over the place. Can be seen and must be known are passive modals. We're going to learn more about them today.
Okay, the latest news can be seen. Nick's story must be known, right? we have to take care. I had a case with one of my students talking about this word. This is sorry, right? The other one is history, right? So we have to take care in that one. Okay, this is history. It's talking about some events that happened in the past, and stories like a short story, right? Like I had today happened to me something funny, and that's a story, right? So we have to take care. Something that you're going to notice in our two examples is the use of the modals can and must. Then we're going to notice that we have the verb be plus the verb in its participle form, sing, noun. For that reason, we have to know how to use it. Oh, something that I remember. You sent me the other day a text, right? I didn't reply it at that moment, I mean, and I'm gonna look for it. It was, okay, I'm going to reply your text, okay? You told me, sorry, miss, I didn't. So, okay, your message, okay, and then it's like a compliment. Do you notice something that is wrong in this sentence that you sent me?
The verb is so.
Yes, right. That was the mistake. I said that I'm gonna reply that in class, but I forget. Then I forget it, and once I noticed, it was too late, right? So when we're gonna use auxiliary verbs, the verb needs to be in its base form. Don't forget, right? We have the auxiliary verbs like do, does, then we have did, okay? In whatever forms that we're gonna use, even though in the negative form or the affirmative form, the verb goes in its base form. So we don't have to forget it. Okay, so let's listen to the first audio.
Verbs can have either an active or a passive form. We use the active form of a verb when we want to focus on the agent, the doer of the action.
Talia's going to interview Nick later in the day.
The example focuses on Talia, the one who may interview Nick. We use the passive form of the verb when we want to focus on the receiver of the action.
Nick is going to be interviewed by Talia later in the day.
The example focuses on Nick.
Okay, that's all. Well, to understand better this lesson, we have to know that we have an active voice and a passive voice. I don't know if you've heard about this before, but we have two kind of forms or voices, as you want to call it. It's okay. The first one is the active voice, and the second one is the passive voice or form. In two ways are okay, right? When we talk about the active, okay, the active voice, we focus on the agent of an action, okay? Talia is going to interview Nick later in the day, okay? This is in this lesson, right? We are talking about the active voice. How do I know that? Because where I'm gonna focus my attention is on the agent. But what is the agent, or what is the agent? Is the doer, okay? Who is doing the action? So this is an active voice. When we focus on the doer of an action, that person that is going to realize something, we are gonna call the sentence as an active voice. Remember, when we say active, we focus on the doer of the action, okay? I'm going to travel tomorrow. Who is going to travel? I am going to travel, okay? So that's my active voice, right? So this is a normal sentence. This is called, again, the active form or the active voice. How do I know? Because in the active, right, in the active form or the active voice, we focus on the doer of an action, okay? Who is going to do the action? Talia. Talia is going to interview Nick. Okay, so she is going to interview Nick, right? We're focusing, our attention is on the doer. In this case, it's Talia. How about the other form, the passive form, okay? So we're gonna notice that in our title, it is called passive models. It means that it is going to contain, or it contains a model, and we're gonna use the passive voice or the passive form. When we're gonna talk about the passive form, we're gonna focus on the receiver, okay? So in my first sentence, Sal is going to interview Nick later in the day. We want to focus on the doer, okay? When we're gonna talk about the passive form, we want to focus on the receiver of the action. In this case, Nick is going to be interviewed by Talia. As you can see, my attention, right, goes to the receiver. Who is going to be interviewed? Nick, by Talia later in the day, okay? As you can see, we're changing more than the grammar, right? The use of the lesson. I mean, we're gonna see how is the structure. In first place, in this sentence, when we focus on the action, on the doer of the action, Talia is going to interview Nick later in the day. I do a little bit like an emphasis, right? How about the second one? I'm changing places, as you can see. In this case, in my active voice, right, it goes at the beginning. Talia is going to interview Nick later in the day, okay? When I'm going to change it into the passive voice, I'm gonna place it at the end. Then, if in my active voice, my receiver, in this case, Nick is going to receive the action, is going to be interviewed, is going at the end. Then when I'm gonna change it into the passive voice, I'm gonna place it at the beginning. Talia is going to interview Nick later in the day, active voice. Nick is going to be interviewed by Talia later in the day, okay? Now the question is, what is the purpose of this lesson? When we want to focus or we want to emphasize to the receiver, right, on the receiver of an action, we're gonna use this structure, right? So we use the passive form of the verb when we want to focus on the receiver of the action. As you can see, everything is about emphasis. Everything is about where is gonna go my attention, where I'm gonna focus on, okay? So that's the purpose of this lesson, to emphasize or the doer or my receiver of an action, right? So that will be everything about point number 1. Is there any question?
No, Miss.
That's cool. So let's continue with the next point. All right.
All verb forms, present, past, present and past continuous, present and past perfect, etc., can be used in the passive. We can also use modals in the passive. To form a passive modal, we use a modal plus be plus the past participle.
The recording can be edited.
Okay, let's continue with the second point. All verb forms, right? We have the present, past, present and past continuous, present and past perfect, etc. can be used in the passive. Why? The passive voice, it's not a time tense. That's the reason of why we can conjugate it with different time tenses, right? And then we're in this point, at this point, we're going to see the conjugation with the modals, with the passive voice. What is the structure? Okay, we're gonna choose the subject, okay? Then we're gonna choose a modal. It depends on the situation for sure. The modal. In this case, we're gonna opt for can. Then we're gonna use the verb be, okay? This verb be, I'm not gonna move it. I'm not gonna modify it, okay? I know that the verb to be has many different forms. It is, are, okay? We have in the past though, but this is not the case. This is a stated verb. I mean, we are not going to modify it, even if I'm going to talk in third person, in singular, in plural. No, don't change it, okay? Then I'm gonna continue, and we're gonna use the verb, okay? The verb in the past participle form, okay? The verb in, I'm gonna write it, okay. All right, there you have it, and that's the structure. Can be edited, okay? We have the interviewed. I'm gonna explain this then. We're gonna go back. We're gonna go part by part, but this is the main structure that we're gonna use for the lesson, okay? So when we're gonna try to do some exercises, then at the end of the explanation, don't forget the structure, okay? It's the subject, in this case, it's the recording. Can, the modal, I'm using can. The verb be, that I'm not going to modify. That's the reason of why I wrote it with purple color, because I'm not gonna modify it. Then the verb is gonna go in the past participle form, and that will be everything. And don't forget, again, you can conjugate this with all the time tenses, right? Because this lesson, the passive modal, it's not a time tense, okay? It's a way to express something when you want to focus on the receiver of the action. So that will be everything about point number 2. Is there any question, Amy?
No, Miss.
That's cool. Let's continue with the next point. All right. So now we're gonna look for a review, okay, of the model. So pay attention to it.
We use can with the passive to talk about present or future ability.
The World Cup matches can be seen all over the world.
We use could with the passive to talk about past ability.
Nick's innocence couldn't be proven without Talia's help.
Okay, so that will be everything about point number 3. We're gonna start with can, right? The World Cup matches can be seen all over the world. Nick's innocence couldn't be proven without Talia's help. We're gonna see in these exercises, in these examples, that we're focusing, our attention goes directly to our receiver of the action. The World Cup matches can be seen. What can be seen all over the world? The World Cup. Nick's innocence couldn't be proven without Talia's help. What couldn't be proven without Talia's help? Nick's innocence. As you can see, everything goes, I'm talking about the passive modals. Everything goes, or we're working on the receiver of an action, okay? So now let's review a little bit about the modal can. When we talk about can, we have 2 ways, right? The first one is when we talk about the present or the future ability, okay? Don't forget, when we use can, the pronunciation can, it's not can, right? It's can like that. The negative is like an E, right? Can't. When we're gonna talk about the present or the future, we're gonna use can. It means an ability that I have, or that I guess I'm going to have in the future, right? It's an ability, again, in both ways, can or could. It's about ability that I have, right? So if you're gonna talk about the present or the future, you can use can. How about the second one? Nick's innocence couldn't be proven without Talia's help. The word or the modal could, we're gonna use to talk about an ability, but in the past, take care, right? Then you can use it in the negative form. Nick's innocence couldn't, I'm talking about the past, couldn't be proven. I'm talking about the past. Without Talia's help, it means that the situation or Nick's innocence had already happened, had already proven, okay? So for that reason, you have to take care. Both are for abilities. There is no doubt on it, but can, present for future and future abilities, and could for past abilities. And let's take a view on the structure. With the first thing that we need is the subject, okay? We have the subject though. The subject is the person or the thing that is going to receive the action, okay? Don't forget passive voice. Then we're using the modal, can or couldn't, the negative, it's the same, right? The negative, it's gonna go in our modal, couldn't, right? Then I'm using the verb be and the verb in each participle form, okay? So in both cases, right, it's up to you. It's up to the situation, which one you're gonna use. But don't forget, can, I guess, in my opinion, is the modal that it's the easiest, I could say, because it's only for the we have for present and future, can. For the past, could, and that's all, right? If you're gonna conjugate this modally into the negative, don't forget to use it or conjugate it with the modal, okay? It's not in the middle of, right? It's not between the verb be and the verb in its participle form, no. It's the negative goes with the modal. So that will be everything about point number 3. Is there any question maybe?
No, Miss.
That's cool. Okay, that's cool. If you have any question, maybe just let me know, right? And now we're gonna continue with point number 4.
We use could, may, might, and can't with the passive to talk about future possibility or impossibility.
Dean might be sent to jail for framing Nick.
This means that it isn't necessary for Nick to speak to Talia. He has another choice.
What?
We use could, may, might, and can't with the passive to talk about future possibility or impossibility.
Dean might be sent to jail for framing Nick.
This means that it isn't necessary for Nick to speak to Talia. He has another choice.
All right. Now we're gonna continue with point number 4. And we have could, may, might, and can't, right? When we use can't, we're talking about an impossibility, right? In the negative way. Let's take a view. First of all, let's focus on the 2 examples. Dean might be sent to jail for framing Nick. Okay, we're focusing or our attention goes to the receiver of an action. Who is going to receive the action? Dean. Okay, or who received the action? Dean. I mean, all my sentence, okay, is related to Dean. Okay, the interview may be scheduled for later today. Okay, everything is working on the receiver of an action, right? In this case, it's the interview. What may be scheduled for later today? The interview. Who might be sent to jail for framing Nick? Dean. Okay, and that's all. Don't forget to ask that question at the moment that you want to see what or where is your subject, I mean the receiver of an action. Okay, so we have 2 ways as at this point, as I told you before, and I'm sorry if I repeat many times, but it's important to know. When we use the models, right, we have to know the use of each one, right? Because when we're going to express something, we sometimes may not, or maybe we can confuse, right? So we have to take in that part. We have to take care in that part. Now, did might be, in this case, I'm using might, or can I use may? Yes, right? So we're gonna use could, may, might, and can't with the passive, the negative for impossibility, right? If I'm gonna use could, may, or might, could be the possibility. And it's about the negative, right? It's about the negative. Dean might be sent to Jay for framing Nick. The interview may be scheduled for later today. What it means? What does it mean? I'm talking about a possibility that I could have, right? In this case, the interview. I'm not sure, but maybe scheduled for later today. Okay, so yes, that will be everything about point number 4. Is there any question?
No, miss. I think.
Okay, or maybe if you have any question, just let me know, right?
Okay.
All right, thank you. So let's continue with point number 5. And as you can see, I don't know if you've noticed this, the models in this page, in this lesson are already prepared. What it means, when I'm gonna talk about present or future ability, we're gonna use can. Could, may, might, can't, future possibility or impossibility. Then if I'm gonna talk about advice, we actually use should, ought to, and had better, okay? When I'm going to talk about necessity, we use have to and must. As you can see, the models here are already divided, okay? So maybe if you can take notes of this. For example, if I'm going to give or to ask for an advice, I have the option to use should, ought to, and had better, okay? Or if I'm going to talk about a necessity that I have, okay, I'm going to use have to and must. What is the difference? The formality. And something that you have to know about the models, right? When we conjugate these models with the passive maybe, we are not interested, not at all. I'm not saying no, but not at all, right? Maybe we prefer to take the modal that it's the most used, right? In order to conjugate it, okay? And I'm going to explain this part in Spanish because it's a little bit, these models, I guess the models for me, it's something, this lesson is very important to know the difference, right? Cuando hablamos de los modals por sí solos, es decir, cuando no conjugamos con algún otro tiempo verbal, sí se le da más importancia al uso de cada uno. Es decir, si estoy pidiendo algún consejo, voy a utilizar should porque es una situación informal. Ahora, si es una situación formal, que tal vez voy a preguntar a mi jefe, entonces opto por un modal que también sea de advice, pero que sea más formal. Entonces decidiré utilizar or had better or ought to, right? Entonces cuando utilizamos los modales por sí solos, es decir, sin el pasivo, sin la voz activa y demás, nos enfocamos tal vez en cuál pueda ser la situación para ver cuál se va a usar. Ahora, cuando los modales se conjugan con otro tiempo verbal, en este caso estamos conjugando los modales con la voz pasiva. Cuando es el caso, y es por eso que en person nos están mostrando ya los modales, si te has dado cuenta, nos están mostrando los modales separados. Es decir, en primera parte está can, en segunda parte ya tenemos a could, may, might, and can't, right? ¿Por qué? Porque nos enfocamos más en el uso del pasivo que del modal. Es decir, por ejemplo, cuando yo ya voy a utilizar la voz pasiva, cuando me enfoco en quién va a recibir la acción, el uso del modal no se ve tan específico. Es decir, que da igual si voy a utilizar should o voy a utilizar ought to o voy a utilizar have better. ¿Por qué? Porque me estoy enfocando en que mi oración esté en voz pasiva, ¿ok? Lo mismo sucede con casi todos los modales que se conjugan con otros tiempos verbales o con otras lecciones, si no son tiempos verbales, que no nos enfocamos tanto en el uso del modal. Es decir, si tú vas a escoger, por ejemplo, utilizar should, o vas a escoger por ought to, o por último have better, las tres opciones están bien, porque las tres me hablan de consejo, la diferencia, la formalidad. Pero no se ve tanto la formalidad, porque nuevamente, reitero, nos enfocamos más en la voz pasiva que en otra cosa. Entonces, por ejemplo, en el número 6 tenemos el have to y must. Sé que ambos son para hablar acerca de alguna necesidad, ¿ok? Sí o sí se tiene que hacer esto. Entonces, da igual si voy a escoger por utilizar have to o must. ¿Por qué? Nuevamente, porque me enfoco más en la voz pasiva. Me enfoco más en que mi oración esté bien estructurada en la voz pasiva. Entonces, por eso que cuando tenemos los modales, por sí solos los modales son un poquito complicados. A mí se me han hecho, sí, tal vez un poco complicados hace algunos años atrás, pero cuando ya aprendes a manejarlos mejor y a conjugarlos mejor, no hay ningún problema. Ahora, de que se tiene que saber el uso de cada modal, sí. Cuándo utilizar, cuál es más probable que cuál, es muy importante, porque no siempre vamos a utilizar los modales con otro tiempo verbal. ¿Ok? Entonces hay que tener mucho cuidado con los modales. A lo que quiero llegar con toda esta explicación es que si es que tal vez decidieras optar por utilizar, vamos a irnos a la columna número 5. Estamos hablando de advices, right? Entonces, si voy a utilizar should, está bien. Si voy a utilizar ought to, está bien. Or have better, está bien. Los tres están bien porque me enfoco en quién va a recibir la acción. The Soccer Federation ought to be told right away about Nick's innocence. The Soccer Federation should be told right away about Nick's innocence, and the Soccer Federation had better be told right away about Nick's innocence. Y algo que es súper importante es que el único modal que tiene el infinitivo es ought to, ¿ok? Y have to. Son los dos únicos modales que contienen el infinitivo. El infinitivo es este de acá, ¿ok? Entonces voy a conjugar tranquilamente ought to be or have to be, okay? And there's no problem then. Had better told, okay? And should be told, okay? So we only have two modals that we have to conjugate with the infinitive. All right, so let's listen the fifth audio.
We use should, ought to, and had better with the passive to talk about advice.
The Soccer Federation ought to be told right away about Nick's innocence.
Okay, we have the Soccer Federation ought to be told right away about Nick's innocence. The receiver of the action to be told, okay, I mean the whole sentence, it's working on the Soccer Federation, okay? The Soccer Federation ought to be told right away about Nick's innocence. The Soccer Federation should be told right away about Nick's innocence, or the Soccer Federation had better be told right away about Nick's innocence. What is the purpose of these models? When we're gonna talk about advices that we could give to someone. Now, let's finish with the last column that we have talking about modals, have, to, and must. Both modals are going to help us when we're gonna talk about a necessity that we could have. Okay, so let's listen.
We use have to and must with the passive to talk about necessity.
The recording had to be edited.
Okay, we can say the recording had to be edited or the recording must be edited. The difference, the formality, right? Have to is less formal than must. Okay, that's the only difference that we have because, well, they're going to help us to tag or to express a necessity that we could have. And now talking about the time tense, as I told you, you can conjugate all of these models in any time tense you want. Okay, in the past, the present, the future, there is no problem, right? The recording had to be edited. Notice that we're using the simple past. The recording had to be edited. Then, if you decide, right, we can, when it's important information by, I don't know, by the president, for example, right, by the president. So this is important information, right? So when we're gonna mention the person that is going to do the action, right? We're gonna use by. When it's important information, when it's not, we're gonna omit it. Okay, and the same happens with all the passive and the active voice, the voices, right? When it's important, we use by. I got a haircut by a hairdresser, right? It's important information, so by a hairdresser. If it's not, I'm just going to omit it. Okay, there is no problem on it. So is there any question maybe?
No, really, Miss, for now.
Okay, okay, that's cool. Now we're gonna practice and let's see if everything is clear. I'm going to share my screen with you with the exercises that we have in person. And yes, that will be. So I'm sharing my screen right now. Once you can see it, please let me know.
I can see, Miss.
Great. Could you please read the instruction?
Complete the sentences, choose the correct answer.
Okay, so number
Amy, Natalia did a great job. She has to be promoted now.
great.
My confession will be seen all over the country. I'll be a star. Talia might be interviewed after practice. Could be. Might interview me after practice today.
Okay.
We have to keep the game honest. Dean shouldn't be allowed to play professional sports again. Dean had better have better find and good lawyer. Nick, man, might have voted most valuable. The next one, Miss, I will think about that one.
Okay.
We call Dean Bishop, but he okay, located for this. Hmm? But he couldn't be located for his comments on this story. Nick's fans must be told the truth. And the sixth, Nick. Might be voted most valuable player this year.
Okay, Nick might be voted most valuable player is available. Okay. Is there something that you want to modify maybe?
No.
Okay, let's take a view. Give me a second. Okay. And let's submit and let's check how is everything. You only failing one, right? And it was number 3. Talia might be interview me after practice today. Talia is the agent of the action. This is an active voice, not a passive voice. What it means that we focus on the doer, not the receiver, okay? Talia might be interviewed. In this case, maybe if you're gonna use this time the passive voice, we have to change the whole sentence, right? This is the active voice. If we're gonna use the active voice, we have to use a normal structure, not this one. So Talia is the agent of the action. You need the active form. Might be interviewed with the passive form. What could be maybe the option? Talia is going to interview, right? Me after practice today, right? But not this one because this is the active voice. When you're gonna do the exercises, you have to see if the first thing I'm gonna give you an advice for these exercises is to check the verb, right? So this is allowed, so it's the past participle. Another thing that you have to check is the verb, the subject, sorry. In this case, if you're gonna notice like that, right? It's very clear when the sentence sounds like an active. I mean, when we focus on the doer of an action, so you don't have to use this structure. Algo que es súper importante para resolver ejercicios como estos, porque a veces nos confunden. Lo primero, tal vez, que si es que no pudieras, hay algunos ejercicios que sí son complicados, es verificar qué es lo que tienes después de la oración, es decir, tu contexto. Leer unas 3 veces tal vez la oración y ahí ya puedes agarrar una idea de qué es lo que te está queriendo decir, qué tiempo verbal, con qué tiempo verbal podría ser conjugado. Ahora, específicamente hablando de los passive modals, enfocarme. Si es voz activa, tengo que ver si me estoy enfocando en quién hace la acción. En este caso, Talía es quien está haciendo la acción, entonces no puedo yo conjugar con la voz pasiva. Talia might be interviewed me. It doesn't make sense, right? So the correct one is number 2, right? If we're gonna talk about the active voice. Si vamos a hablar de la voz activa, la opción correcta sería el número 2, might be interview me. ¿Ok? ¿Por qué? Porque me estoy enfocando en quien hace la acción. Si me quiero enfocar en quien recibe la acción, que en este caso soy yo, tengo que utilizar esa estructura. Pero como no es el caso, escojo el número 2 como respuesta correcta. Okay, so the correct one could be my interview. Okay.
Okay, Miss.
Is there any question maybe?
No, Miss.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, and we're gonna finish with the second practice of the task in exercise number 2. So please give me a second, it is loading. Okay. That's right now. Okay, I'm trying to share, but it seems Okay, please now. All right, so once you can see my screen, please let me know. So please don't forget what I told you. Try to read again and again if you need it. Can you see my screen?
Yes, miss.
Could you please read the instruction and start doing the exercise?
Excuse me, miss.
Could you please read the instruction?
Okay. Complete the article, type the correct form of the verb in parentheses into the blank, use the active or passive.
Okay, so
Okay, Jackie Bishop's amazing recorded confession is good and bad news for soccer fans. By now, most of you must know that Mrs. Bishop admitted helping her brother Dean make the funny foul. She ought to congratulate for her courage.
oh, too sorry.
Congratulate her for her.
Okay, our attention goes to the doer or the receiver. For her courage.
She congratulate. Oh no.
Is this the active voice or the passive voice? Because we have a, okay, Mrs. Bishop admitted helping her brother Jim make the funny file. She ought to for her courage. So we are focusing on the receiver.
Ought to be congratulated.
Yes. Okay, why? Because she is receiving the action. Okay. Congratulations. Oh my God, I forgot to write. Okay. Why is my okay, yes, now I get it. So, okay, so we're focusing on the receiver of an action. Okay. So, ought to be congratulated for her courage. Continue, please.
Okay. That's the good news. The bad news is that Dean Bishop is Crawford's teammate. It's a side date for the sport when a teammate can be trusted.
Okay. We're talking about an ability and an impossibility, right? That's the reason why we're using can be trusted. Okay.
Can be. Okay. Dean Bishops can be allowed to play professional soccer again. That's certain, but an important lesson that can be learned from this story.
Okay.
This
Can
story
be the participle can be
learned.
Okay, the pronunciation can be learned from his
story. Competition between two players on the same team must be limited. Of course, there's nothing wrong with healthy rivalries, fans enjoying them, and athletes' progress can be measured in competition with a rival.
Okay,
Uh,
yeah.
A player may use a rivalry to push himself off or herself to higher levels of performance, but competition has to be kept in its proper place.
Has to be.
To be kept
Okay.
in its proper place. Players have to respect each other, the rules of game, and the law.
Okay. Have to respect each other, the rules of the game, and the law. So let's submit. Okay. Let's see how it's everything. And congrats, everything was great. You've got 10 out of 10. As you've seen, when you are gonna read, and something that helps, not in all the cases, but yes, helps, is when we're gonna read and the sentence that we read, or maybe we choose the option, it doesn't sound good at all. So we have to change the sentence, right? And as you've seen, maybe as you've noticed, you have to see where goes your attention, okay? If you have the, as is in the case of the business sentence, for example, Jim Bishop can't be allowed. Okay, so we are focusing on the receiver. Who can be allowed? Jim Bishop. Or what can be allowed? I guess this is a shop, so it. And then how about the last one? Players have to respect. We're focusing on the doer, not on the receiver. Okay, so yes, you have to see the both cases. Where goes your attention? If it's we focus on the receiver or on the doer. Okay.
Okay, Miss.
All right. So is there any question maybe?
No, Miss.
Okay, that's cool. So I'm going to share my screen with you. And once you can see, please let me know.
I can see, Miss.
Okay, yes. So this is going to be your homework as we finish. At the beginning of the class, I told you that we have 3 more lessons, right? To finish, and then you're gonna take a test about everything, right? And if you have any problem with it, just let me know. But first of all, we're gonna go with step by step. This is going to be your homework, right? It's about future continuous, object, adjective clauses, and passive models. You have the task listening, the pronunciation, the reading, and writing. So then you have a quiz, okay? Then you are going to have, we're on Friday. You're going to have until Wednesday, okay? 15th Wednesday, in order to finish at midnight. Okay, so you're gonna have almost a week to finish the homework. You're gonna have an hour, almost an hour to finish. The person is gonna grade your capitalization, and then in your punctuation, you're gonna have a model answer at the end of each exercise. Okay?
Okay, Miss.
All right, so that will be everything for today. Is there any question maybe?
No, Miss.
Okay, that's cool. So I'm gonna see you on Monday, please. At 2 p.m. Is it okay?
Yes, up to PM, Miss.
Okay. So if you have any inconvenience, just let me know. Okay.
Okay, Miss.
All right. Thank you, Nicole. Have a great weekend, and I'm gonna see you on Monday.
Okay, Miss.